My name is Don Carmichael. I am the founder of the Champion Group and the Feed the Need program. We are so excited and delighted to be working with your school on your Feed the Need event. Tonight is a big night. Tonight is your kickoff night, and it's the chance to hear how Feed the Need works and how it can benefit your children from a character standpoint, how it can benefit literally hundreds of children and families, not only in your community, but also in different parts of the world. And most importantly, Feed the Need is a major fundraising event for your school. This is about raising as much money for your school as possible, secondarily helping feed hungry families and children. So thank you for coming tonight. I know that most of you in the room are probably not super excited about coming to a fundraising event. Hopefully by the time you leave the night, you will be very excited. What you're doing with Feed the Need and what you're doing in terms of the fundraising process is actually very, very significant. In the next few minutes, I'd like to take you through just a general presentation that explains how the event works, how the fundraising occurs, and how you ask people, and it's actually very easy. So our outline for the next few minutes is in these three areas. Number one, the event is extraordinary. Number two, the fundraising is easy, which is great news for all of us. And three, how to ask people. So getting started with the first event is extraordinary. The event is an extraordinary event. It's called Feed the Need. It was the outcome of a season of prayer about 6 years ago where we were looking for a brand new major event fundraising concept that was meaningful. Even if it didn't raise any money, it was important and it could raise a lot of money. And what we were trying to figure out essentially is how could we bring an overseas mission trip experience into a school campus? And what we are excited about and why this was important to us is we know that those who serve often get more out of the experience than those they actually serve. And so we were looking for ways that we could position your children to have a greater mission impact and experience the blessings of serving others that are less fortunate. In the process, learning about different cultures and ultimately learning how fortunate we are as Americans to end up with gratitude. To give you an example of how well Feed the Need can work, this is a little tiny school in Birmingham called Spring Valley. They only have 63 students in the whole school, but their families got together and they became unified behind this to raise money for their school and to engage their children in something more meaningful in terms of a give back focus. And with just 63 students in the whole school, Spring Valley raised $154,000. And just 4 weeks ago, this was taken in a small warehouse in central rural Pennsylvania. This is a tiny ministry of just 3 staff. They work with Amish and Mennonite families. It's called Straight Paths. And with just 3 staff members bringing together friends and family members, they raised $182,000 for their ministry. So this is a significant event. The event truly is extraordinary. The way it works is on the day of event, we will set up your gym or other meeting room area to be very well organized. All you have to provide are 10 tables. We set those up in a very specific way. Your children they come in, their hands get sanitized, they have hairnets, there's fun music, we do competitions. But what's meaningful is where the food is going. This is a little girl in Haiti eating some of our food. These are a couple of boys also in Haiti. And you can see the food looks a little interesting. It doesn't look necessarily that delicious, but it actually tastes very good. This is the first Feed the Need event ever done. This was in Bend, Oregon. And what you can't see is outside it's actually snowing. So it's completely weatherproof. The event is very well organized. There's actually 4 different sets of ingredients. This is a mix of nutrients that is designed by General Mills nutritionists that is basically focusing on a fully nutritional package for children struggling with malnutrition. So of the 4 different ingredients that your children will be packing, the red stuff at the bottom is dehydrated vegetables. The brown stuff is soy that provides the protein component. The yellow stuff is Vitamix, 19 vitamins and minerals. And the white stuff is rice, which provides carbohydrates and energy. So all of these different ingredients get scooped into a funnel. At the bottom of the funnel is a bag. And one of the things we like to do is we like to pair up the little kids with the big kids and sometimes some of the grandparents that are there as well. But the food works its way through the funnel into the bag. It comes down the table. It gets weighed. It gets heat sealed. It ultimately gets taken over to the boxing station. We can involve children as young as 2 and 3. They can color boxes with crayons and they can carry the bag. So almost the entire family, regardless of the age spectrum, is able to enjoy being part of Feed the Need. So number one, the event is extraordinary. It's about helping other people who are less fortunate than your children and giving them a chance to have a hands-on service impact in the lives of other people. It's very much about giving back and teaching those character qualities to your children. All right, so number one, the event is extraordinary. Number two, the fundraising is easy. And that's got to be good news, because guess how many people love to fundraise in this country? About zero. And we know that's true in your room. So how does the fundraising work? It's very easy. It basically involves several different areas, but the primary area is your family sponsored texting campaign. Think of a walkathon. In walkathons, we send out letters to friends and family. And then at the end of that campaign, if you will, that letter campaign, we go out and do our walk. This is very similar in that your family will be contacting your friends and family anywhere in the country and saying, would you sponsor our family as we do this event to raise money for our school, and in the process, helping other children and families that are far less fortunate. And instead of using the old school letters, you'd be using state-of-the-art personal web pages and texting those pages to your friends. And I'll show you that in just a moment. But in addition to the family fundraising campaign, you also are looking for corporate sponsors, underwriters, and matching donors. All donations to your school are tax deductible. So this is the family fundraising snapshot. The key is to sign up as a family. So if your family has 2 or 3 children in the school, you're just setting up one page. It's your family page. And whatever your family total is, that full total can apply to each of your children in their classroom competitions. So that way it equals it out for families who have 1 child or those that have 3 or 4 in the school. So sign up as a family. Number 2, basically that means set up your personal webpage. Number 2, basically text 30 friends or family anywhere in the country. You can do this through texting, through individual Facebook messaging. You can use emails if you're careful, but emails don't work very well like they used to. And if you're really brave, where you'll get the greatest response, you can actually pick up the phone and call some of these people and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We'd love to have you be part of this. Would you be willing to consider sponsoring us? So your activity goal is to send out 30 texts to friends and family anywhere in the country that you have a relationship with. Your fundraising goal, and you can set this, but most families set $1,500 as their best effort goal. And essentially what they're doing is they're giving about an hour of their time, simply going through the process. And if you go through the process faithfully, you should see somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500 per family raise. Now it's okay to set a lower goal, and it's okay to set a higher goal. And I'm going to show you here in just a second what the process looks like. This is actually your technology platform that you'll be using, that we provide. It takes about 3 minutes to set up your own personal web page, and you can set that up here on a tablet, on a laptop or a desktop, or on your cell phone. You'll notice that you will have a chance to upload a picture of yourself or your family. You can also upload a very short video that you can take on a cell phone and do that just as easily. And you'll find that if you actually upload a video, many people will be a little bit more responsive just because they're curious, and they'll listen to your video message and they're more inclined to give. If you would call people, that's by far the best. As I mentioned, you'll see about an 85% donation response rate. But the key with Texas and with any of this type of fundraising is that people give to people they know. That is the most important principle in fundraising. That's been the core for these events that we've been part of, raising well over $100 million, because people give based on relationship. If we have a chance to give to 10 junk mail, direct mail solicitations that come to our house, or 1 letter from our niece across the country saying, I'm doing a walkathon, would you sponsor me? Where do we send the money? We send it to our niece. So texting is the best technology to get in front of your personal friends. This is my cell phone. I'm not sure if you can see it in the small screen, but on my cell phone, like yours, I have my closest relationships in my contact address book. Now, why text? 97% of adults are within 3 feet of their cell phone, 23 hours a day. Look around at each other. How many of you are within 3 feet of your cell phone 23 hours a day? And right now, chances are every single one of you watching this is within 3 feet. Number 2, statistically, is that 99% of texts actually get read. Maybe the next day or 2, but 99% gets read. So the key is cell phones, address books, closest relationships. People give to people. what you want to do is just sit down, start in the A's and go to the Z's and simply text those you're comfortable with. Step number one that on the outline was the event is extraordinary. Feed the Need is remarkable. Step number two on the outline is that the fundraising is easy, and it is very, very easy. All you have to do is do it. It takes less than an hour. And finally, step number three, how to ask. How do you ask people? Well, there's three key principles of fundraising. That's why you'll see that little school of 63 students that raised $154,000, that little Amish ministry a month ago with only 3 staff that raised $182,000. How did they do that? Well, fundraising principles really boils down to 3 things. Number one, understanding that people give to people they know. As I mentioned, we're much more inclined to send money to our friend who sent us a direct letter or an email or a text than we are to 10 or 20 direct mail campaigns that end up in our mailbox. So people give to people they know. Number two is you have to ask in order to receive. So I'm going to ask you a very complicated question. I'm about finished here, so thanks for hanging on. But how many people will give if you don't ask? So if you don't ask, what happens? You don't receive. So you have to ask in order to receive. How can you do that painlessly in a way that is winsome and fun? Texting is the easiest method we know. It is the cutting edge method in our culture of communicating with people we have relationships with. And finally, principle number 3 is you get what you ask for. Please don't make the mistake. I saw this just 3 weeks ago with one of our clients doing a live Facebook video appeal. And he was out there and his heart is great. I know him personally. He's a friend of mine. But he was saying, hey, anything y'all can do, even $5 would be great, $10 would be great. Well, if you ask for $5 and $10 amounts, you'll end up with $5 and $10 amounts. Be a little bold. Just tell your people, hey, we've sponsored ourselves for $100 to help us reach our $1,500 goal. Would you consider sponsoring us for any amount, but would you consider maybe matching something that we did or close to it? You'll find that most people will do closer to you. So I do want to share some texting tips, though. Texting is the most effective technology to get yourself in front of your friends without having to make a phone call. The very best is a phone call. We know that if you make a phone call, about 85% of the people you talk to on the phone or in person will give. If you don't do a phone call, then the response rates drop down a lot. But these are really key texting tips because texting is the best way to approach your friends and family network without any intimidation. You can literally sit on the couch with your kids, pray over the process, and start texting people individually. So down here in tips, please read these later when you get ready to do this. But tip 1, text people one at a time. Do not do group text. That's the same thing as sending a big junk mail blast to your friends' folders or their phones, and they don't appreciate that, and they won't give. So tip number 1, text one at a time. Tip number 2, engage your friends in conversation first before asking them to sponsor you. So notice up here in the sample script right here. This is actually what my daughter Victoria did with my friend Bill. Mr. Hart, this is Victoria Carmichael. Do you have a moment? And she waits, and she does this on my phone because my phone has all the adult contacts on it. Sure, what's up? Then she says, I'm doing a fundraiser for my school. Would you like to help me? Well, who wouldn't like to help a precious young girl or teenager? And he says, probably, tell me more. And then at that point, she copies and pastes her blurb about what she's doing with Feed the Need. It has her address in there where he can click and go right to her website and give. The other tips down here you'll see is that once you've engaged somebody, that's the time to do your copy and paste. As I wrap up my portion of tonight's message, I just want to talk for a couple of moments about how I ask for money. And when I've done this process, which I've done many times with my family, what I want to do, first of all, is sit down with my kids and my wife, and we talk about why we're doing this and how it's significant, and we pray over the process. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my cell phone, and when I start going through the A's and going down to the Z's, I'm asking the Holy Spirit to lead me through the process and who to ask, but even more importantly, who to skip over. Because we all have certain people in our lives that we don't want to ask for money about anything. So for about 1 out of every 8 or 10 people, I'll feel comfortable texting. So the first thing I do is I pray through the process. Then I'll call that person or text them. Calling is better. And I'll just share my heart. Let me tell you why we're doing this, why this money is needed, how this money is going to be able to help a cause that I care very deeply about. I've already sponsored myself financially. My fundraising goal is $1,500 for our family. And would you consider sponsoring us and being part of our sponsorship team? And would you consider maybe even matching what we've done or as much as you feel comfortable? Any amount is fine. And at that point, I'm trusting the Holy Spirit to move. So in some cases, I may have a very specific sense of confidence in asking for a specific amount. Going back to the example, is you get what you ask for. But for the most part, I just tell people, this is what I've done. Would you consider joining me in the process? Now, a couple of final numbers just to end with. Number one is the difference between making the phone call and making the text. If you make the phone call or talk face-to-face, you should see about 85% of the people that you talk to giving. When you take that down to any other media, it gets lower because it's easier to say no to somebody if they're not talking to you face-to-face. So if you go to the texting route, please let me encourage you, send 2 follow-up texts. The follow-up texts are the most important. After day 1, hey, Bill, do you have a moment? If you don't hear back from Bill, day 2, send another text. Hey, Bill, do you have a moment? If you still don't hear back from Bill, day 3, 1 more text. Hey, Bill, do you have just a second? If he doesn't respond to those, then just let it go. But what you'll probably see is that your greatest donation response rate comes on your second follow-up text. So be faithful in the follow-up. And if you do that follow-up process, you should see over 50% of the people that you text actually give financially. And at this point, I'd like to take you to the very last comment that I'd like to make. In just a moment, you're about to pull out your commitment cards and look at what role that your family wants to commit to in terms of a best effort commitment. One of those spots is a fill in the blank. And let me just open the conversation by sharing this. One of our strategies is with the event is to find individuals who will provide matching donations. If you knew tonight that through the special arrangement of different individuals that there was a 20-to-1 match that would match every dollar that you and your family personally gave to your school, how much would you give? In other words, you gave $100, the 20-to-1 match turns that into $2,000. Or if you gave $500, that 20-to-1 match would turn that into $10,000. And so for just a moment, I'm going to be quiet for about 5 seconds. And I'd like you to think of a specific number that you and your family would be willing to give based on a 20-to-1 match. So think about this number for just a moment. Okay, I'm getting ready to leave you all and let you get to the commitment card. But you'll find on the commitment card, one of the spots on that says that you agree to financially sponsor yourself before you go to your friends and family, which really gives you the right to go to them. And the question is, how much do you sponsor yourself for? There's a fill in the blank. How much money do you put in the blank? And I just want you to know that any amount is completely fine, whether it's large or small. But let me encourage you for just a moment to put in that blank, sponsor yourself for the amount of money you thought of just a moment ago with a 20-to-1 match. And here's the reason. If you faithfully contact 30 people, you should see anywhere from 15 to 20 of those people giving financially. And because most people do what you do, you in essence are creating your own 20-to-1 match. So let me just encourage you to give very generously, because the more you give, the more your friends will give. Thank you for your time tonight. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Let me just encourage you, the fundraising is easy. Just be faithful in the process. And I think you'll be really encouraged by how responsive people are and how much they really delight to help out friends of theirs. Thank you again for the chance for us to be able to work with you all. And we wish you God's best.